Well, hi, good morning. Thanks so much for joining me in my shop here. Let's see if I can fit this on my bench. Here we go. Oh boy. It's a big wooden box. Look at that. Ha! Attention, this set has been adjusted to 110 volts. So here's the story on this fantastic radio here. Check that out. Wow! Wow! That's a big capital W on the wow. Nordmende. FM stereo indicator. Tuning indicator. Oh, this guy's loaded. Directional antenna. Stereo balance, stereo, ferrite antenna. Wow, this is a beauty, isn't it? Broadcast, shortwave 1, shortwave 2, and FM. The FM is a North American, 88 to 108. So this was almost certainly made for sale in the North American market. It's all English on the front here. So, wow, this is quite the radio. So here's the story. I think this radio was in regular use up until fairly recently, when the owner turned it on, heard a pop, and that was the end. So now it's here with me. So often I get things to work on with almost no information about what may or may not have happened. There must be a little indicator light there. It's probably visible when this is closed. Yeah. So with this closed, you know if you've left it on. So my options here, I could turn this on as it is. It has two speakers which the owner brought to me. Also, I'm going to call him Mr. R. Mr. R brought. The two speakers are identical in size to this box. So I have two more boxes this size. They're right here. There they are, sitting on their sides there. That's a lot of stuff. But if you're going to work on something like this, especially a European radio, you need the speakers that came with it. Sometimes there are electrostatic high voltage speakers involved with these guys. Maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know offhand, but pretty important with European radios to be sure about what you're doing with the speakers before you do anything. Even the built-in speakers that are in some of these radios, maybe not this one. This one I'm sure doesn't have speakers in here, but even the built-in speakers can be high voltage speakers, electrostatic speakers. So I don't think there's any reason for me to hook up the speakers, plug it in, turn it on, and hear nothing. I trust the owner's observation, a pop, and then nothing. So I think the best thing we do is take this out of the cabinet, start studying it, and look it over. If something popped, it can probably be spotted through observation. Let's see what we got here on the back. Tuner amplifier 3004C, 110 volts, 80 watts. It's funny how almost all these plug-in tube radios consume around 80 watts. So there's a component layout chart showing you the different tubes that are in it. How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. My experience with European radios is that the engineering is not so much based on how to build fairly decent, inexpensive units. It's really about how to build fantastic units that are quite expensive. That's kind of the difference, I think. Look at this. So it has this plastic window you can look through to see the chassis in the back where there's a tag with some numbers on it. State these numbers in any inquiries. Now one of them has a big X drawn through it. in that window there. Underwriters Laboratories. No, CSA, Canadian Standards Association. This was sold in Canada. Caution, do not defeat the purpose of the interlock. Don't tell us what the purpose is. Just this radio complies with FCC rules, so it could go in the States too. There's the antenna. The dipole 240 ohm antenna. It even puts the impedance of the antenna on here. Okay, I'm going to have to unplug that because I'm going to want to take the back off in a moment. Here's the speaker outputs, phono input, tape recorder input, typical European style 5 pin connectors here. That almost looks like a fuse in there, but I don't think it is. I think that's actually a capacitor. You can see through this plastic window. This looks like the locking slide for this. So if I undo the screw and slide this over, this will come right out. There's tangs going into the bottom from the back. So it's screwed on the top, tanged on the bottom. Now what's this all about? Why is this on here? So this is pulled out a bit. Huh. I don't know. This might have been an attempt to tie it back. This thing. It's cracked right in here. Maybe from someone trying to peek inside. Pulling this out and trying to peek in there. There's a good chance there's a fuse inside this radio in the high voltage section, and that's what popped. And it may be just a matter of replace a fuse, we're done. Okay, enough looking at it. You know, I do like to take my time, especially virtually everything I work on I've never seen before, although I may have seen similar models. But most of the time, you know, there's a million radios out there, so what are the chances I'm going to do the same thing twice? Not that high. So I've learned to be very cautious and observant because there's little things that are specific to every model. Which way's off? There we go. Pull this off. Pull on the cord there. Let me see if I can stick a screwdriver down there and pry it a bit. So that's how these things get broken. Doing this kind of stuff. Let's find another way. Coming out. Wow. Just can't quite get all the way down there. I don't think I've got anything long enough to do it. Pulling against this tang too if I'm not careful. damage in here, in fact. Ah, it's really gripped. Looks like it hasn't moved at all, really. Maybe this. I don't want to damage anything here, but there we go. Cord looks good. Let's check the other end. So I'm just looking right in here. Looks good. Okay, now we take this out. What went bang? That tube is shot right there. So that's one of the output tubes that's shot. See the white? The white color on the top? Oh, look at that. Okay, there's something new. I've never seen anything like that. Quick, grab the close-up camera, Jim. This is... You never know what you're going to find. If somebody had told me this is what would be in here, I would have said, you're kidding me. You know what, I'm just going to hold it in my hand. There we go. So first of all, the white indicates air has gotten into the tube. You see the other one is black. Black or silver. Black is actually a little less common. Usually you find silver on here. ELL80. So as I mentioned, these are the output tubes. Let's go back to the broken one. Now here's the amazing thing. Okay, I'm going to pull on the glass tube here. Look at that. So, never ever seen such a thing happen. The popping sound would have been, I guess, this glass fracturing and then the air popping into the tube. And then it would have turned white instantly, and who knows what else might have happened. Might have been kind of a flame out in this thing. I don't know. But so the interesting question is, well, why would this tube pop? Because it overheated. And why did it overheat? Probably because of a component problem in the circuitry driving this tube. It was probably running so hot that it actually, the temperature difference between the glass shell and the base, which is being cooled because it's plugged into the radio, and there's a ability for the heat to drive away. My guess is stress built up so much in here, plop. I don't think these are terribly cheap tubes either. I don't have these tubes. 6HU8. Do I have a 6HU8? I may not. So we may not get anywhere with this radio on account of I have to really change this tube out. Almost certainly, I don't know. This is a stereo unit. I was going to say maybe these are push-pull, but in fact it's stereo. This is probably left and right. So you probably pull this right out of the radio and operate the radio on one channel. And that would let us know if the whole radio is busted or... But here's the thing. Whatever made this tube go south is probably happening to this one too. So there's a component problem down in here. It's really got to be dealt with before we operate this radio. So let's give an, hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this wasn't what the operator or the owner heard. Fat chance it wasn't, but maybe not. West Germany. So let's see what we can see here before I drag this radio out of its cabinet. So it's got this whole side section. This is actually like on the side of the chassis. Sorry about the focus happening there, but this is like an additional unit. My guess is this is the stereo maker. This is the stereo discriminator circuit. Saw something about that on the yeah, there's a tube in it. On the back of the radio it said it had something about that. Here's the EL80s output tubes there. But on this little side guy, there's one tube, ECC81, which I believe is the FM tuning tube, the FM, an FM tube. Let's leave it at that. There's another little goodie here. I didn't see this when the back was on. What's happening here? Let me just throw the back. So the back exposes those four. Surprise. Hey, look, the back is kind of swollen out there. I don't think that's by accident. That's by design. So that is that's an oddball thing. Don't know what that's all about. You know, with that tube shorting out, it may have taken out a fuse in here. There may be a fuse up in here. This is the output transformer. Feeds the speakers. Very typical of European style radios. Why is that wire sticking out there going nowhere? That's kind of odd looking. Is that the same over here? Well, that's a pretty strange thing too, isn't it? You know, and I can hear my coffee pot beeping upstairs. I'm going to have to go up and deal with it. So there's a bunch of these horrid capacitors. I think those two guys there, even though they're in the dark, I recognize them already. Those are horrible, horrible capacitors there. There's going to be dozens of them in this radio. That's my guess. Okay, usually the power supply's sticking out on the end of these. Not in this case. In this case it's got this FM thing. Or is that the power supply way up in there? I can't imagine it's way up in the front. So there should be a pretty big power transformer. Let's go up the other side here. So now this is the FM tuner here. Pretty sure. In this metal box. I'm going to have to stop for a minute and go up and reset my coffee maker. And tons of electrolytic capacitors, small ones in here too. It's typical European design. That looks like the top of the Magic Eye tube. There's the tuning string. Yeah, I gotta go upstairs and shut that coffee maker off. The poor thing is complaining too much. Okay, so we're kind of looking up underneath it here. In fact, if you look, you can see how I've got the camera aimed up underneath, just to take a peek. See, a little bit of dust and dirt there. Okay, hang on 1 second. I'm just gonna refocus this camera. Just bear with me a moment. There we go. So the style of board way up above there is this is an easier radio to work on. I don't want to say that too much. If you look at the right now is the back side of the push button switches on the front. And a lot of these radios really rely on the terminals up in these, the multiplicity of terminals up in these sliding switches back here. Make a lot of connections to it, and the whole thing makes it almost impossible to look at a schematic and track your way through it. Lots of challenges to this kind of radio. So it's got to come out of the cabinet. We're going to have to work underneath this area here. I'm going to find a couple of capacitors, but probably when I pull it out, in fact, here. Here's the power transformer. This may be the fuse. No, that can't be a fuse in there. This is a fuse. Let's take a look. I think if a tube blows up, the fuse would pop too, eh? That looks just fine to me. Oops, I'm showing it to the light. Yeah, but you can't see anyway, but it looks fine. It's a time delay fuse. Has a spring in there. Fuses are complicated things. Exactly how they behave when you overload them. Actually, a little bit complicated. Here's a wire hanging out here. Was that under there? Wow, it isn't under there now. What's that about? I don't hear an answer, so we'll carry on. Let's take him out of the cabinet here. Let's see, how's it in? So it looks like there's a screw I can see down in here. There's probably one in the front, probably two more. It's probably 4 screws. And then occasionally the pointer is involved with the front dial. You have to be very careful pulling the chassis out. So occasionally the pointer's on the outside of something. Now these radios often have a spring-loaded white plate in behind here, a blocker plate, so you can't look through the slots and see the radio itself. And that blocker plate sometimes is tricky. I don't see one in here though. And the pointer's on this side, so the whole radio should just come right out. What about clearance? Sometimes there's screws up high in the cabinet. Oh my gosh. Here we go. Here we go. Shadow has come to assist me here. She's saying, hey, I can smell something new in here. Where is it? She'll be coming around the radio when she comes. Okay. Yeah, so I can get at these 2 screws here. They're flatheads. Shadow was just out in my garage for the last half hour. Another step in her training. We're getting her ready to go right outside. Some people don't believe in letting their cats outside. You know, either way, make it an indoor cat or let it go outside. The thing is, we already have a cat that goes outside, so it's a little hard to let one out. Careful there. Goodbye. It's kind of tough to let one out, but not the other. Here. So her training consists of letting her into our garage. It's cold in our garage, it's not heated or anything, and so she gets a sort of an outdoor feel. There's sounds in the garage you can't hear in the house, like birds singing, stuff like that. And what she's really being trained for is she comes back to come in the house, door's closed. Can't come in. Can't come in until one of us, my wife or I, open the door, of course. Well, that's the same experience you have when you're outside. You're outside, you want to come in, nobody's opening the door. And the screws give me some trouble here. So by being in the garage and having to wait for me to open the door, because frankly I forget that she's out in the garage, she learns that not to panic, that sooner or later, now this is a cat that never panics, but sooner or later someone will come and open the door. Okay, there's more than one screw here. Let's see. I think this is the right one. Feels like the washer's missing. So little observations like that, a washer missing on a screw like this, bye Shadow, what it tells you is you're not the first one here. Those other screws came out without any washers. Sometimes the washers stick up under the cabinet, and then when you least expect it, they fall out and they're gone. Sometimes the screws are not all the same length. Look at this, they aren't. Oh, don't tell me this. I'm already. Well, one of them is long. Okay. I don't know which one it was. Sometimes the screws aren't the same length. If you're not careful, you'll get them mixed up. Let that be a lesson to you. Sunshine has finally come. We've been through a long period of gray, rainy days. Beautiful, sunshiny day. It's just above freezing outside, which is way colder than it should be at this time of year. Okay, but anyway, full sunshine. Yahoo! Spring is coming, even if it's delayed. I think this is ready to come out, so we'll just move it a bit and see. Wow. It's ready to come out. No, it's not. It's in here, solid as can be. Look at this plate. You know how flimsy that is. So what's holding it? Did I take the wrong screws out? So maybe there's some. Maybe I was right about what I said earlier. Take my own advice. Okay, so there's a little piece on a long wire that's screwed onto the this light. This light is screwed to the cabinet. See, occasionally there's a screw right in the front. I don't see such a screw. Something is really holding this down. Maybe there's a. You know what? I took out two. I think there's three. I took out two on this side. I think there's actually three. Yeah, there's one in the middle here I missed. So the thing is still screwed in tight. It's fun, eh, watching me take screws out, but it's all part of it though. So that's a long screw I just took out. Long screw from the middle. And what about this side? Did the same thing here? Yeah. Now there's a screw here. I'll take it out. What's going on? Having a hard time getting my screwdriver in there. Okay, so 6 screws, not 4. And that was a long one. So long one's in the middle on either side. That still doesn't explain why I've got an odd number of long screws. Okay, we loose now? No. Wow. It feels just as solid as can be here. What the heck? Okay, I can roll this thing forward here and we can take a look underneath. Very unusual. This piece of wood here is actually wedge shaped. It's actually wedge shaped. Well, this chassis is actually bolted on an angle downwards into the radio. It doesn't explain why I can't lift it up. Now it may just be stuck. So I'll use a little prying force right in here. That's all it may be. Oh, it's heavy too. I may have to kind of lift it up and pull it out to get it out of some holes here. No, this is just solid. Yeah, see, it's just stuck. It's stuck to the rubber. There's some rubber grommets in here. Okay, so that side's loose. Out. Looking for. Kind of worried about this little red light over here. Looks like it's made to swing out like this. A lot of these radios are made, these European ones, are made to swing out. So this one's a little different. There's no speakers inside here, but some of them have speakers mounted inside, and they're designed to swing out one way, so you can leave all the wiring in place. You don't pull it right out like this. You just swing it out one way like that and work on it. Then you can rotate the chassis. All the wires stay connected to wherever they're going. Here's that steerable antenna. It's not much clear. Oh wow, there's almost no clearance here. Wowie zowie. What's this? What is that? Well, that's something unusual. What is that? What the heck is that? It's got to be the loop antenna or the antenna moving or something. I've never seen anything like that. A little bit of light coming down from above. Isn't that strange? It's got these little dig outs here for it to slide into. This aluminum sheet here is the FM antenna. That's fixed in place. And that's That's the AM antenna. Well, what the heck is this piece of wood? Oh, for crying out loud, it's the top. It's the door on the front, okay? Okay, takes me a while. It's just the sliding door on the front. So there you can see the connection of the FM antenna lead to the... See, this is highly engineered. It's got a coil here. They're not fooling around here. It's a serious business. What I mean by that is this antenna is engineered and designed. It's a certain size, you know. And they've used a wide piece here for a reason. I don't know much about making FM antennas, but there's got to be a reason why they're using tin like that. I see that quite commonly. And then just push the door a bit. You can see it come across the top. Soldered on there. Okay, let's pull it out here. Wire's not going, so this wire is connected to a piece of tin on the bottom here, I'm sure. I gotta watch out, don't want to damage this. Get it hooked on there. Let's turn it like this. Okay, a little bit at a time. Should have probably got rid of them. Okay, we're going to leave it in that very precarious looking position and see about disconnecting this light. What is this string here? That's not good. I want to find a string in a radio. Okay, well, hopefully it's nothing. That's a pretty light string. You know, you see the strings here? Of course, working the mechanism. This looks like a piece of thread. This doesn't look like anything anybody would use in a radio mechanism. Okay, now we're going to get back in there. Looks like I can just pull that light right back. It'll come right out. That's what it looks like. It's the kind of thing that cracks when you're pulling on it. Yeah, it looks like I can pull it back, but I can't. Okay, so there's a screw right up in here. We'll take that screw out instead of risking breaking something here. It's just another flathead screw. That's typical in European radios. European radios like flathead screws. American radios like Phillips screws, and Canadian radios like Roberts screws. Everybody likes Roberts screws once they try one. Okay. But you know, they take that screw right out. There we go. Okay, got the light out. Probably could be burned out anyway. So now we're ready to take this right out of the cabinet. Man, it looks like a car wreck on my bench. this over here for a moment. Okay, get rid of that cabinet. So little cards that have been stapled into the radio, probably indicating who inspected it. And there's a card here. Put the antenna over top of it. Sometimes there's a lot of secret information in these guys. It's like 65. Okay, there's a sticker here, and most of it's gone. Number 2305. There's a sticker over here. Most of it's gone also. You're looking for something really on the sides, but that's about it. No helpful information coming. These are almost certainly inspection tags from the manufacturer's inspection. And you can see clearly that this wire goes to this metal plate down here, which was, I'm pretty sure it was disconnected. Not a big deal. That's that. Piece of broken plastic, or like an elastic band, like it once was, an elastic band. Don't see where that came from either. It's okay. So is there any parts laying in the bottom here? Screws that have fallen out? Anything I wouldn't want to vacuum up? You hear the sound of something clinking away through your vacuum. A disappointing sound. It's very scary vacuuming in my shop, by the way. Okay, so cabinet, you're done for now. Why is this not closing all the way? Cabinet away. Radio back. There we go. Now, let's just see what we got it sitting on. It's sitting on its metal foot here. It's sitting on a metal bracket back here. I don't want it sitting on these plates. Okay, and on the front, what's it sitting on? Sitting on this metal plate. That's fine. Everything's fine. I don't want it sitting on the glass necessarily. I'm just checking to see where the words are. They're on the back, of course. On the back of a plate. There's nothing on the front here to worry about. You see, you can take this whole radio out. All the knobs stay on. You don't take any of the knobs off. So there's a couple different ways of doing radios. This is one of them. The whole glass plate, everything on the radio, bolted to the radio chassis. A lot of radios, the glass plate is bolted to the cabinet. So the problem with that is you don't know where you got the radio tuned once you take the chassis out. So let's take a quick tour around here. I already see some funny things going on. Let's do it with the close-up camera. Okay, I just start at this end and we'll just look things over really carefully. So this is that decoder. So that's what this is. This is the stereo maker. It requires a tube. And these would be the various adjustments that are involved in aligning the discriminator part of this radio. It's definitely a stereo FM radio. And we see a large plug and a socket. So this is probably an add-on unit in a sense, this piece here. See, it's all bracketed on. You could remove all this and you'd never know what was missing, except there'd be an empty plug sitting here. And what do you get out of that? You get mono FM. But this one's got the decoder, the additional decoder. So I'm looking for things that just don't look right, things that are dark, burned, blackened, broken, burst open, tubes that have blown their tops. Can't say I've ever looked for tubes that have blown their tops before. Nordmende. Now there's an interesting number. B66.634.81. Yeah, that's a modern way of doing numbers. So here's these capacitors I was moaning about. These ones actually look to be in pretty good shape. Often the shells are cracked something terrible, but these aren't. These are pretty good. Here's that weird thing with the connection here that's come off. You know, why would this connection come off? So there's that one there. Well, you know, as a guess, one is it was never soldered very well to begin with, and this thing heated up. I'm not exactly sure what this is. Could well be a resistor. Could have heated up and then this just popped off. Somebody took it off on purpose and left it off on purpose. I don't know. I don't think too many people have been back here fooling around. So look down here. Lots of little capacitors. But nothing too scary yet. It's probably why Mr. R has been using this radio regularly right up until recently, because it's got good components in it. It's survived. So here's the top of those sliding switches from the front. All these buttons here. And you work all these. You see all the components that are in there? Attached to the terminals that come with the switch. And the thing that makes it very, very difficult is a lot of these terminals don't attach to anything anymore, or never did. They're dead terminals, and it's two pieces of that orange stuff I found now. So this is the on-off switch right here. You can see it's a toggle switch. It's operated by a lever, and there's a spring. See if I can move my camera right there. You can see the spring pulling it back. So if I push the on-off switch here, actually this is the off switch. Okay, so I just turned it off. This step was on, so it's off now. Let's watch that switch go. Okay, so that's on, and you see that thing slides and trips the rather ordinary toggle switch that's located there. Yeah, you can hear it go off. You can see it come on. Let's go off again. So this radio doesn't really have an on switch, it has an off switch. Off switch. To turn it on, you make a selection. One of these things, shortwave, FM, whatever you want. When you select this, any one of these, that switch gets tripped and the set comes on. The only way to turn it off is to push this off button. Okay, you know, if you know about slide buttons, and you know there's a shaft that slides along and releases the buttons and all that kind of stuff, this is just the same. Okay, a few components to look at here. Looking at each one to see if any of them are burned. Anything weird has happened. See the dust on that one on the left there? That thing that's got like fur? Okay, so that's a suggestion that that's actually a high voltage circuit. And the extra couple hundred volts there electrostatically attracts the dust and dirt. That's one kind of a poor guy's way of figuring out where the high voltage is in a radio like this. So a little tidbit coming up by that resistor there. Look at this. I gotta get a pointer here. There's some interesting stuff to point at. I need a pointer. Get one here. There we go. Okay, so that's a furry high voltage effect, I believe. See the ones over here? Don't show that dust. No, I could be wrong about that. This one shows a lot of dust on it. So I think that's all high voltage stuff. Probably going to the plate of the tube. It's not of any consequence. It's just, it's just knowing what you're seeing, or at least having a good story. Humans really prefer having a good story about stuff they're seeing, even if the story is wrong. Lots of dust in here. I'm really not expecting to find anything blown open. Not after seeing that that output tube. Now this is a real interesting mechanism here. Okay, so let's take a look at this. One of the features that you get with it, and we'll check it and see if it's working. You get with these European radios, some of them anyway, is they have a pointer for that band, but see, it's over here for here. Hey, how do you do that? How does that work? Well, there's two tuners, right? So you can see one here, the big wheel on it, and there's another one there. That's the FM one, and this is the AM shortwave one. Inside this can is a typical looking tuning capacitor, and inside this can is a bunch of little parts and stuff to deal with the high frequency FM signal. So how the heck, it's got one knob. Let's see, we'll put it on broadcast. Okay, now we'll turn the tuning knob, watch which pointer moves. See, the upper one moves. Talking about moving. Get my light out of there. So upper one moves. FM one stays put. Where'd it go? There it is. Now I gotta bring the light back. I can't see the pointer. Now, so magic. This is like magic. I now push the FM. You'll grab the same knob. Which one moves now? Where? What happened to it? Where'd the FM dial go? Oh, there it is. There we go. Okay, I don't know what's going on. Sorry, I'm a little bit confused myself. So now you see the FM dial's moving. Okay, so if we look back in the radio while it's tuning FM, you'll see the FM wheel is turning, and the AM one is not. And then if we push broadcast pushed, now I turn the knob, that wheel turns, and this one doesn't. How do they do that? With a transmission. Right there. So this is now set for, what is it set for? AM. Now I'll pick the FM button. You see that? I'll put it back on broadcast again. AM and shortwave. And now we'll go back to FM. These mechanisms get sticky and they don't shift gears. So this is just applying the drive. That yellow big wheel there is tied to the knob I'm turning. I'm turning up here. And so right now it's driving the socket or the sprocket at the back, which in turn is driving driving the FM. So that's FM towards the back. This is broadcast. And you see it now turning this. By the way, the tuning feels fantastic in this radio. The knob feels just perfect. It's got a little extra flywheel weight, that big weight there. You see that silver thing going around? That's just a big hunk of weight. to give some momentum to the knob, to give this pleasant feeling of power and control. That you've paid for something. There's something in there. Seriously, I really believe that there's a big feel issue with the tuning knob that the engineers and designers worked on. Let's look at this antenna thing. This says over there, direction finding. So it's really referring to this outside collar. We watch. See that? Now we look inside at the radio. That's what's really happening. You're actually turning this. So let's see, at the top, the antenna is more or less in line with the radio, if I can put it that way. It goes right around. Oh my gosh, it goes right around. Wow. Okay, so what happens with these guys is the drive strings break. These are pretty taut. But what also happens is the wires give up in here, because they have to have a way of having fixed wires on the antenna, which is rotating, somehow go in the rest of the radio. So you see, they just have them dropping down through the middle, and then they twist around here. See, they're on the move. Anything that's on the move is on its way to failure. And where do those wires go? They just go way down the radio somewhere. Well, these all look great. Look, here's where that rubber's been coming from. See, it is actually a rubber band. It's actually a rubber band, and again, this isn't just some slacky thing. This is designed and engineered. But of course, any material that is flexible, like a rubber band, can be stretched back and forth, almost always comes with a short life. It's almost like a trade-off. If you want flexibility, you can't have a long life. So what's the purpose of this band? So this band clearly, certainly involved with the holding of this antenna in the right spot. Ooh, this whole thing is loose here. So what happens if those bands disappeared entirely? If I pick them off, it looks like nothing is holding this antenna down at that point. So for now, it's quite fixed in place. So I'm not going to worry about it. But these will fail entirely, and then the antenna will be loose. Sooner or later, it's going to fall off here, I would think. But for now, she's fine. Strings look lovely in here. So this radio is really in very good condition. Let's take a look underneath it. See what we can find out. Maybe this is where the disaster lies. Switch it off. Do you hear that? It's a little bit slow. I push this down. Listen. Did you hear anything? I didn't. I tried again. It seemed to me the switch was slow a moment ago, but it's not now, of course. How can we set this? A lot of these radios, you gotta tip up on their end, and there's a big problem with that because the glass is bigger than the chassis. You don't want it on the glass. By the way, the glass is often held with brackets with rubber pieces, and the rubber has lost its rubberiness. This is good. These ones are good. This lower part, not so good. Don't know why they did it quite like that. So they got rubber on the top and like a foamy material on the bottom. Oh, if we could only find out from the engineers what they were doing. But we're not anywhere near taking this glass off, so we're not going to worry much about that. Question of setting this radio on its back. Now if we set it, let's see, this would take a lot of the weight here. That's pretty strong. That's really pretty strong. So it'd be on this, down these lower areas, maybe sitting on this piece here. If I flip it right on its back, I gotta flip it right upside down. Well, then it's sitting on the antenna, and that's how we'll break the antenna. So maybe I need some kind of a support trick here. I need a support trick. Let's see. I've got. Where's my trick? There it is. I've got a bigger one of these somewhere too. This is not the most. I don't know. That doesn't look very good. So if these radios do not need extensive work, component changes, things, if all you're doing is tuning them up, maybe changing a light bulb, something like that, you leave it in the cabinet for sure. In the cabinet, you can get at the bottom, there's a plate that comes off, exposes various stuff at the bottom. You can do a lot of work on these things without taking them out of the cabinet, Jim says at this point. But we have to take it out because we gotta get under here. Wow. Well, let's try it on its back and see what happens. Try to hang it over my thing here. I'll just try a little bit here. There we go. I gotta do something with it. Okay, if I take a piece of wood here. Exactly not how I want it. There, that's better. Okay, just a little further out. There we go. Okay, so that's pretty. It's really okay. Really is okay. Trust me. Well, let's keep looking at the bottom here. Did I say something about there are a lot of parts in one of these radios? I see something weird already. How can this be? I just look in there and immediately see something really bizarre. Oh, okay. Switch cameras. What is so bizarre? Look at this. It's a resistor. It's just in the open. This is kind of. Oh, this is coming back from this connector that had that thing plugged in it. So this resistor and this one, they just don't look. They don't look right. See, this one's got a sleeve on it. Is that sleeve correct? Well, it is. That's a terrible sleeve. Get a little more light on the topic here. Where are we? Here we are. Okay, so I'm looking at this resistor and asking myself, is that original? So it looks like there's similar little sleeve is split open here. I don't know what to make of it. Resistor to nowhere. And see how these go through these holes? You know, that's not an engineering design. I mean, if they gotta come through two different holes because they're bare leads. They could have. It's just not. It's not. Okay, let's carry on. See what other weird things we can find besides disconnected components. You know, I know my problem is here. I don't have my own big screen TV going. Hang on a sec. There, that's a lot better for me. Another thing about these radios, they have a lot of components, but you see how they're buried under themselves. They're all woven in place. There's a metal can electrolytic. Many small electrolytics. Okay, so is that a burned resistor there? Or is it just some shadows? Well, this resistor looks like it's been a little hot. Doesn't look bad though. So, you know, some resistors get warm. Where, you know. Okay, I'm getting quiet here while I concentrate on looking at stuff, because there's a lot to look at in one of these. Look at all those electrolytic capacitors in there. Oh my god. So if you're the kind of person who says, oh, electrolytic capacitors gotta go, you don't want to buy one of these radios. Unless you really like changing capacitors. Here's your chance. I can't stress how important it is to look a radio over very, very thoroughly. Look at all those capacitors on that back plate. Again, I don't have any good reason to think they're bad. I don't have any good reason to think they're good, except the owner said the radio was working well. Until it blew its top. Chances are there's a good chance we replace that tube, and we're back in business with this radio. It's an awful lot to look at. Coils that are arranged at right angles to each other, so they don't cross interfere, if you like. Once we're finished this general look-see, then it's time to look at the output tubes, the one that's got the shattered glass top. There's the main power supply transformer. So there might be a fuse somewhere around here. They're stuck out here somewhere. Hey, oh yeah, that's the, I was going to say, there's a tube hidden there, but that's the magic eye tube. This is a super magic eye. It's got actually two functions in it. It has a usual tuning function. Oh, that's interesting. Now, these are the switches that do, what do? They do FM automatic AM sound. FM automatic AM sound. I'm not really sure what that means. Presence and brilliance. Well, they're trying to describe the tonal quality of the sound. They're using words like that. Let's work the switch here. Yeah, so these switches get dirty and stuff like that happens to them, but it looks just fine. Lots more capacitors. 2 more anyway. There's that gearing arrangement from underneath. Okay, so I don't see anything too dramatic. Don't expect to see too much. Those 2 screws are paint locked. That one too. Yeah, same thing over here. Probably because what they found was that people are working these switches. So this panel is flexing, everything's flexing, and the flexing can knock these screws loose. It's probably why they've locked them in like that. These ones all have locking washers under them. For some reason they chose to do this glue. I'll take a look at this switch, these switches too. Seems to be mechanically fine. Let's go after the output tubes. They are right down here where you see the back plate for speaker connections. The output tubes are going to be right near here. In fact, there's the socket for one of them. Now I'm looking at the components around here very carefully. The tube is overheating. It's overheating because it's carrying too much current. If it's carrying too much current, other components are also carrying too much current. Enough too much that it may overheat them and cause them to fail. Or at the very least, darken them down. I haven't studied a schematic yet. It looks to me like this is a Class A amplifier. There's one resistor there that appears to be darkened. It's going to see, these are monstrous radios to work on. It looks like that resistor is going down there somewhere. I don't know. Okay, so it's involved with this tube, but this tube's not there. The output tubes are down here. So this is not an output tube. This is probably a preamp tube. Maybe this one here. ECC, it looks like 82 to me. 82. You really need a schematic though, otherwise just playing a guessing game. Telefunken. Are you tube crazy? Are you one of these tube crazy people? Collecting tubes and I also know that yeah, crazy people collect tubes. I have a tube collection, but it's not a show off collection. I learned in many ways in life, if you're looking for something like this, like I'm doing now, sometimes it's just a matter of putting in the time. The longer you look, the more you see. Well, that's what I'm doing here. Now, maybe you've seen something I didn't see. That doesn't look very healthy either. Didn't I stop on this one before? Where is it? That's fine. I look at it with my own eyes, it's just fine. When I look at this other one, this has definitely been overheated to some degree. This one here. The fact that it's turned brown a bit, that suggests that it's running at a temperature that's higher than it was ever intended to run at. Now on the other hand, after 30 years, a little bit of extra heat might cause some browning there. But if you think about it, if the case is changing, and turning brown means it's chemically changing, then inside the carbon, there's a carbon rod in there probably, and maybe that's changing too. Well, maybe this guy's gone high. His resistance is supposed to be, looks like, well, there's only 3 bands on there. How can that be? Plus, once they've been hot, the color of the bands can change a lot. Purple, brown, silver. That doesn't make sense. It's missing a band. Here's another one over here. Oh. Okay, so I think the first band is yellow. It's right on the sort of end cap of that resistor. Yeah, for sure. So, yellow, purple, brown, that's 47. It's 470 ohms. I could put an ohm meter on there and see what it really is. Now, the rest of them look good. Doesn't mean they're good. But, without some kind of indication, hunting around in here, I'm not sure it's very productive. Let's measure this resistor, though. We'll see what we get out of this. It's on the wrong tube. I don't know for sure that it can't be carrying current from this tube down here. Look, it's a jungle. Electricity goes where it wants in this radio. Okay, let's check that resistor. Can't see any other purposeful thing to do. For really just going out to get a new tube. That's really what's going to have to happen here. Resistance of that. So I think it's supposed to be 470. Let's see if I can use my short leads here. $54,000. Let me just make sure I got this guy hooked up okay. Did I really get the right terminal? You can really be fooled. So for sure, that was the correct reading on that resistor. And we check the bands again. Because, wow, okay, 54,400 and 470, those are very different numbers. Oh my gosh, I've been on this for an hour now. Let me zoom in a little on this one. Take a good close look at it. Okay, so for this to be, let's say 47K, and that would be yellow, purple,
and that next band would be orange. But you know, it really looks brown to me, but then you can see that it's definitely been heated. That's exactly the kind of thing that happens to these color bands. They change. And brown never becomes orange. Everything, where to go? Everything becomes brown. So that could very well be a 47K resistor reading 54K, gone slightly high. They're really serving the radio fine. And you know, like here's another one just to the left. I'll put it right center of the screen there. There you can see quite clearly. Well, it looks like white, but I'm sure it's yellow, purple, orange. So conceivably, that orange color became this brown color. Otherwise, if this is supposed to be 470 ohms, it's shot. It's way off. It's way off. It's possible. It's burned like that. I'd have to get the schematic to really... I keep returning to that same resistor there at the center of the screen now, that brown one, because it just looks ugly all the time. Nothing else coming out of here. Guess just go back. I got the on a little tighter zoom here. Let's look around. This is the bottom of the output tube. In fact, I should really look at the one that broke. The one that broke is the outboard one. It's this one. This is the one that broke. Really close. This part's just buried under parts. Man alive. Now, I'm also looking for a larger resistor, one that's a higher wattage, and I see one back there. And it looks to be a little bit cooked. It's that green thing. Judging again by the third band, it just doesn't look quite right. That'd be 220 ohms. 220 ohms if it's a brown, or it's a 220 ohm resistor, and that's just perfect for being a cathode bias resistor. And you know what? There'd be another one just like it on the other two. See if we can find another one. Just like it. There could be another one just like it. Well, there's one. Red, red, brown. Well, it doesn't. It's not green. How come this one's green? Here we go. There it is, way back there. Red, red, brown. It's going to... I can see it there. Wow, bit of a guessing game. Where it's going. Looks like it's going to the pin socket right on the bottom. This is really kind of a risky way to compare this. Let's see that one down here, right on the bottom. So risky because I'm assuming these tubes are installed in the same way, the same rotation, so the pin count is identical underneath. Cannot spend too much time looking. And that resistor's got a hole in it. Okay, let's see if I can get center of the screen, more or less. There. Got a hole in it. You gotta wonder, was that like that when they installed it? I think somebody installing parts would, if they saw that hole, they would toss the part away. But it didn't look like a problem to me. So, I mean, the reason I'm interested in the cathode resistor is because if it's not working right, or if for some other reason the tube is conducting wildly, conducting a heavy current to the point where it blows its glass shell off, that current is flowing through these components, and that green one is the likely target. Well, we can go a little further. There's the pin gap, so I can count the pins here. Wish me luck on this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 7, 8, 6. So pin number 6 has that resistor hooked up to it. Pin number 6. Just take a look here. Is that tube? So ELL80. ELL80. I'm not sure I'm going to find that in this book here. I'm not sure it's in here at all. ELL80. Okay, so I'm gonna pop on the internet and just figure out what pin number 6 is. Okay, ELL80. There's the pin layout, and it's got some internal connections you don't commonly find in tubes. Like here, the cathode is internally connected to the screen grids here. So I said it was pin 6. 6 is a grid, but you know what? I also counted this pin as number 8. 8, 7, 6. So it's probably really pin number 7. If that's the case, look, it's right to the cathodes. So it is the kind of connection that would have a cathode resistor, bypass capacitor, all that kind of stuff. It might even have a shared cathode resistor. I'm not sure. Again, you gotta look at the schematic for that. But I'm pretty sure what I'm looking at is the cathode resistor, slightly higher wattage resistor there. So I think the word with this radio is, despite some of the odd things, the radio was working. It's a question of getting a new tube, popping the tube in, seeing if it works. At that point, checking things like the tube current, tube temperature, and probably going after the cathode resistor or resistors that are down in here, and the bypass capacitor, which is also probably down here. In fact, it could be this big thing up here, this big one up in there. I don't know. Got to find the schematic for it to be a little more sure, but yeah, this is definitely a radio worth having. No question about it. It's in for European radios that I've seen, although they all generally are in fairly good shape because they're so protected inside cabinets and boxes. The componentry in here looks excellent. So, and what I mean by that is, it's not, the shells aren't full of cracks, and it doesn't look like there's 1,000 parts that have to be changed out. Fantastic. So, so I think that's as far as I can go with this guy until we get a tube for him. That's going to take a couple of days probably, or a week or so. My gosh, I got so many discombobulated radios around now. Yikes. Thanks a lot for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. And as I say, until the tube comes, you can't do much more.